Welcome to The Game Changer with Dr. Sharalyn, where purpose meets performance and leaders are built to shift legacies. I'm Dr. Sharalyn Payne, executive strategist, speaker, and the secret weapon behind leaders who drive transformation at the highest levels. Each episode delivers bold truths, power skills, and real-world strategies to help you lead with precision, show up with presence, and build the kind of influence that outlasts trends. This is the space where high-impact decisions are born, where influence is intentional, and where the bold don't just lead, they change the game. So if you're ready to rise, ready to lead, and ready to create the kind of impact that moves markets, missions, and minds, you're in the right place.
Let's slow this down because leadership conversations move fast. Too fast to tell the truth. We live in an era that celebrates disruption. Bold ideas, visionary leaders, big announcements, sweeping change. Disruption gets applause. It gets attention. It gets promoted. But here's the truth most leaders don't want to confront. Disruption is not the goal. Legacy is. And those two are not the same thing. Disruption can happen in a moment. Legacy requires architecture. What I see inside organizations, global companies, public institutions, high growth environments, is not a lack of vision. It's a failure of translation. Leaders know what they want to change. They don't know how to translate that change into systems that survive pressure, politics, and succession. So today I want to talk to leaders who are tired of motion without permanence. Leaders who are asking a harder question. What will still be working when I'm no longer here to protect it? Because leadership that depends on presence is fragile. Leadership that's embedded into systems, that's legacy. Let's make this real. I've been inside organizations where the change agenda was absolutely brilliant. We had clear strategies. We had strong messaging. Our executives were aligned on paper. We did the town halls. The people were excited. The decks were pretty and polished. The language shifted and it was exciting. But beneath the surface, nothing structural changed. Decision rights stayed vague. Incentives stayed misaligned. Power remained concentrated. Consequences remained optional. And our employees, everybody knew it. Because people don't follow speeches. They may be moved by them, but they don't follow them. They follow structure. They respond to structure. Here's a mistake leaders make. They assume resistance is emotional. It's not. It's structural. Organizations don't resist change. They revert to the system that feels safest and most familiar. So when leaders try to drive transformation without redesigning the system underneath it, they are asking people to fight gravity, literally. And that's not leadership. It's a recipe for burnout, frustration, and exhaustion. And it's precisely why nearly 70% of transformation efforts fail to sustain results. It isn't because the leaders aren't smart. It isn't because people don't care. It is because change was never operationalized. It was announced, but it was not embedded. Let's talk about the messy middle where transformation dies. Every transformation has three phases. You have the vision, the transition, and you have the institutionalization. Most leaders are strong in the vision phase. They can articulate what's broken. They can inspire belief. They can create urgency. Some survive the transition. That's the messy middle. This is where friction shows up, where resistance gets labeled, where leaders feel the pressure to compromise. But very few leaders complete the final phase. And this is where transformation becomes legacy or quietly disappears. Institutionalization requires leaders to answer uncomfortable questions. Who owns this when I stop driving it? What happens when someone powerful, someone important, someone with the title violates the standard? Where is this written and what are we going to do? Not just spoken. What gets enforced when pressure hits? And if you can't answer those questions clearly, the change is temporary. And deep down, your people know it, which is why cynicism grows. Because nothing exhausts an organization faster than change that doesn't stick. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. Many leaders unintentionally design transformations that require them to stay central. We need their approval. We need their voice. We need their constant presence. They become the glue. And over time, the organization doesn't reach maturity. It just simply doesn't mature. It becomes dependent. And that's not influence. That's just being fragile. Here's the question that exposes everything. If you stepped away for 6 months, what would break? Would it be decision-making, standards, momentum, accountability? If the answer is a lot, then the system was never built to hold the change. And here's the deeper truth. Some leaders confuse being needed with being effective. Legacy leaders do the opposite. They intentionally design systems that don't require them. They don't centralize power. They distribute capability. That's not loss of control. That's mastery of leadership. Now let's talk about how legacy is actually built. It's not in theory, but in practice. There are 5 system pillars legacy leaders design every time. And I want you to listen for which one your organization avoids. Pillar 1, decision architecture. Who decides what? At what level? With what authority? Most organizations are unclear here, and they pay for it daily. Legacy leaders design decision rights intentionally. They remove ambiguity. They reduce escalation. They align authority to role, not personality. Because when decision rights are vague, power fills the vacuum and culture suffers. Pillar 2, values without behaviors are decoration. Legacy leaders define, what does this value look like in action? What behaviors violate it? What happens when someone crosses the line? This is where leaders hesitate, because clarity requires consequence, but ambiguity is far more expensive. Cultural clarity is not harsh, it's humane. So you codify your behaviors. Pillar 3, operating cadence. What gets reviewed gets reinforced. Legacy leaders embed change into rhythm. Leadership meetings, performance conversations, quarterly reviews. If it's not in the cadence, it's not real. Saying something matters is not enough. You have to schedule it. What do you actually schedule? Pillar 4, incentive alignment. People follow incentives more than inspiration. If promotions, rewards, and protection contradict the message, the system speaks louder than leadership. Legacy leaders align incentives intentionally. They don't hope behavior changes. They design for the behavior to change. In Pillar 5, succession by design. Legacy leaders build leaders who don't need them. They ask, who can carry this forward? Where am I still the bottleneck? What capability must exist beyond my tenure? This is the difference between founders and institution builders. One creates movement, the other creates permanence. Let's talk about the culture myth that leaders must drop. Culture is not soft. Culture is operational. Culture determines how truth travels, how conflict is handled, how power is used, how accountability functions. When leaders say we need to work on culture, what they often mean is our systems are misaligned, but we don't want to confront it. Legacy leaders confront it anyway, because culture doesn't change through slogans. It changes through structure. So I want you to slow down. I'm going to ask you some questions, but I don't want you to answer quickly. I want you to answer thoughtfully and intentionally. We're going to take a test, and I want to call this the legacy test. So ask yourself these questions. What only works because I'm holding it together? What only works? Maybe it's with your team, your organization, your project, your program, your initiative, because you're holding it together. What are people complying but not committing? What do they do because you know that they have to do it, but they're not really committed to doing it. They're just doing it out of compliance, checking the box. What standards exist in language, but not in consequence? So what do you say, but you don't follow through? There's no consequence to whatever it is that you say. What happens when you pressure test your values? So when you put your values to the pressure test, when someone of a position of power, influence, or title does something, are they held to the same standard? These answers tell you whether you're leading disruption or if you're building legacy. Legacy costs more upfront. It requires the hard, tough, challenging conversations. It requires clear boundaries, structural change, letting go of control. But it costs far less in the long run because systems reduce burnout, they reduce attrition, they reduce rework, they protect credibility. Legacy leaders trade short-term comfort for long-term endurance. They are not managing moments, they are building institutions. Here's what I know. Disruption gets you invited in 2 rooms. Legacy determines whether what you built survives scrutiny, succession, and the course of time. As game changers, we don't just spark change, we steward it. Game changer leaders understand that leadership is not proven in moments of momentum, but in moments of absence. And the real question every leader must answer is this: what will still work when I'm no longer here? Because leadership that depends on presence is fragile. Leadership translated into systems, that's legacy. You don't lead like everyone else, so your resources shouldn't look like everyone else's. I created the Game Changer Leadership Collection for high-impact leaders like you, visionaries, change agents, decision makers who lead with intention and influence. This free, high-impact resource pulls from my leadership arsenal and delivers immediate, actionable insights you can use right now to elevate your influence, lead with conviction, and drive lasting transformation. It's not just a toolkit. It's your first step toward leading at the level you were born for. Let me show you what's inside. The Leadership Edge Sampler. It's a preview of my 10 daily power skills to sharpen your influence and impact. The Influence Language Mini Guide. Essential phrases to increase your authority and build trust in every room you walk into. The Leadership Blind Spot Snapshot. Because the greatest risk are the ones we don't see. The Power of One Visual Aid. A reminder that even one decision, one tone, or one conversation can shift a team or stall a movement. The Executive Briefing Checklist. A go-to tool for high-stakes communication that drives clarity and alignment. The 5-minute accountability brief, a no-fluff framework to build a culture of ownership fast. And we have the Game Changer Ascension Model Overview, my proprietary leadership growth map to help you scale your influence with intention. These are the very same tools I use with executives, culture shapers, and elite teams. Leaders who know what's at stake and aren't here to play small. Because when you're called to shift systems, influence nations, and build legacies, you can't afford to lead on autopilot. This is where your next level begins. Download the Game Changer Leadership Collection today. It's free, it's strategic, and it's built for leaders who are born to shift the game. I'm Dr. Sharalyn Payne, and this is your Leadership Edge. Thank you for joining me on the Game Changer with Dr. Sharalyn, where we don't follow trends, we set them, and we don't just lead teams, we shift legacies. If today's message challenged, stretched, or inspired you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, tag it, lead through it, because real leaders don't just consume wisdom, they multiply it. Want to go deeper? Subscribe to the Ultra Influential newsletter for exclusive tools, behind-the-scenes strategy, and weekly mindset shifts for the leader ready to move nations, markets, and minds. Visit www.smpistrategies.com or send a note to leadership@smpistrategies.com. And if you're ready for next level coaching or consulting that positions you as the right leader at the right time in the right place, let's talk. This is what we do, and we do it with precision, power, and purpose.
Remember, change isn't just something you lead, it's something you become. Stay bold, stay brilliant, stay a game changer.